Okay, let's finish off this last problem for, what is this, 3-1? All right, so we want to, this is going to get a little ugly, so bear with us here. We want to find the extrema of f of x equals 2 sine of x minus the cosine of 2x on the interval of 0 to pi. I'm not that mean. All right, so just to recap what we did yesterday, whenever we want to find the extrema, we need to find the derivative, set it equal to 0, factor it, see what values will make it 0 for us. Okay, then from there we want to check those. Those are called our critical values. Those critical values, we will plug them in, as well as our endpoints, our left-handed endpoint and a right-handed endpoint. Plug them all in, find the value of each of those from the original function, and highest one's your max, smallest one's your min. Okay? So here we go. My f of x is 2 sine of x minus cosine of 2x. All right, now, obviously, if we do this, we're going to have to do a little bit of like u substitution and stuff. First one, our f prime of x, sine of 2 sine of x, that one's easy. It's a coefficient rule, so it's just 2 cosine of x, derivative of 2 sine of x. Okay, the second one, we'd have to use u substitution because of the 2x that's in there, but you would end up with plus 4 cosine x sine x. All right, now let's take this guy, set it equals 0. Now, from there, it's where it gets a little sketchy, right? So, can we factor this guy at all? Factor out of 2, right? Can I pull a cosine? I could pull a cosine out. Let's see, how did I do this before? Pulled out of 2. What did I do? Oh, I know. I see what I did. I rewrote. No, it's just the derivative. We're good there. I don't think even what I did was right. 2. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I pulled out 2 cosine. Okay, so I pulled out 2 cosine x. That's going to leave me with what? 1 plus 2 sine x equals 0. I just can't even read my own writing today. All right, so essentially, here's my 3 factors then. You all right with that? Okay, I pulled out the 2 cosine x, but I'm just going to separate that. Now, 2 would be equal to 0, so we really don't have to worry with him. It doesn't even have an x in there, so that's illegitimate. All right, now, if we look at cosine of x, what's the 2 values for cosine of x that give us 0? This is basically doing inverse cosine now. It's the 2 values. Good, pi over 2. And the other one would be 3 pi over 2. Great job, guys. I'm glad you remembered that. All right. And the other one, we would set it equal, take that 1 over, divide by 2. Okay. So we would have when we want to know when the sine of x is equal to negative 1/2. Right? So the sine of x, and that's because I subtract the 1 over, divided by 2 there, get sine by itself. Sine of x is equal to negative 1/2 at 2 values. This is back to unit circle stuff, you know. Is equal to negative 1/2 at 7 pi over 6. and also 11 pi over 6. I can.
I think you should print some.
I'll print some. I'm fine with that. All right, so those are 4 values. All right, these are our critical values now. So all our values, we need our left-handed endpoint, which is 0. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 critical values. 2, 3, 4 critical values, and my right endpoint. All right, so looking up at the beginning, we plug these back into our original function. If I find f at 0, put a 0 back in, sine of 0, it's just going to be -1. Okay. Second one, f of pi over 2 is going to be 3. Okay, again, just plugging and chugging. All right, next one, f of, what's the next biggest one? 7 pi over 6, I just kind of did them in order. F of 7 pi over 6 is going to be -3.5. All right, next one, f of 3 pi over 2. That one would be -1. Next one, f of 11 pi over 6. That's going to be -3/2. And lastly, my right endpoint is f of 2 pi. That's going to equal -1. All right, what's my biggest value? 3. What's my smallest value? -3/2. And I actually have 2 of those, don't I? So pi over 2 is my max. My min's 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Now, I want to take a minute here. We went from 0 to 2 pi. I want to graph this. You guys can see what I graph. Because right now, this is all just, algebraically. And you're probably sitting there going, where the heck are these things coming at? Right? All right. So we're going to go from, what's our interval? 0 to 2 pi. Okay. Let's pull this up. Get Desmos. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? All right. So we just did f of x equals 2 sine of x minus the cosine of 2x. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set my scale here. I'm going to set this, my x-axis, I'm going to go from the same interval as what we just did, 0 to 2 pi. Okay. So there is what my graph looks like. Okay, and that's on the interval 0 to 2 pi. Pi, 3.1, so we're about 6.2 is where this thing stops at, right? So we said our max occurred at pi over 2. Pi over 2, that's what, about 1.6? Right, there's our max point, right, at pi over 2. My value is 3. Look at that. Okay, we said our mins were at 7 pi over 6 and pi over 6. So that means here, 7 pi over 6, our value, this is -1.5. We had -3/2. We had another min hit here at 11 pi over 6. All right, so what we did, here's our overall max. Min. Now this guy here, remember this is our other critical value that occurred at 3 pi over 2. That's one where we didn't have an answer for here, right? That's a critical value. That would be a local max, but it's not an overall max. Make sense? Any questions? We good?